Andrew, first, just today we received the news that Walker Buehler underwent a successful Tommy John surgery, his second one. At what point did you guys realize that was going to be the surgery that was needed for him?
I think definitively today, we knew that there was a real chance of that. It's a tough blow, but from all the sounds of it, it went as well as could possibly be expected. Talking to Dr. ElAttrache earlier, he felt really confident about it. Felt like he went in and got it back in good order, and so now we just go through the progression part of it, and hopefully get him back as soon as possible. And but there's no sugarcoating it. It's a tough blow, but we'll get him back, and I know he's already itching.
And we spoke with Dave Roberts about Walker at the time, thinking it was just elbow surgery. He was hoping that it wasn't going to be Tommy John. Was that a thought for you at any point? And how do you now have to kind of look ahead and start planning for next season, knowing that you will be without him?
Yeah. Again, it was kind of the worst case scenario in our mind. I guess once you get to that point, though, there's degrees of it and how the ligament looks and soft tissue around it. So from that standpoint, it actually turned out as well as could be expected. But we knew there was a real chance of it. I can't remember many other instances in my career where the MRI has been inconclusive enough to have to go in and see exactly what it looked like. But I think that probably speaks to how much good there was around it as well. And I think from our standpoint, we are seniorly focused right now on 2022 through September and into October. We knew months ago that there was a real chance that he wasn't going to come back this year, and so we've been planning accordingly. And once we get to the offseason, we'll start turning our attention to 2023, but obviously it's a big blow for us now. It's a big blow for us next year as well.
Did you assume he's out for next year?
I don't know. I just know that today went well. And then as we start getting into the rehab and progression, and as he starts to pick up a ball, we'll have a better sense. I think it going as well as could be expected just leaves that open-ended to the point of just not being able to answer it right now.
Do you know if the ligament was the problem all along now, and it wasn't until you got in today to see, or is that something that happened as he was trying to come back and just throwing progression?
It's hard for me to say. It definitely started in the flexor. The MRI machines, when you use dye versus not, there's just different pictures and it's not clear. And again, most instances, it's been really clear. This one wasn't. And so it's tough to say, but going in, there was a lot of good around it. There were concerns about, the graft itself. There were questions about the flexor. All the stuff around it was in good order, and Dr. ElAttrache felt great coming out of it, talking to him. Forgot the exact word he used, but he was extremely happy with how it went and the integrity of the things around it and what he was able to kind of suture together, and felt really good about it.
How much more uncertainty do you guys have when it comes to a guy having a second TJ and then also having like the flexor part of this on top of it?
The data on those guys is actually really good. It's funny looking at that. A surgeon matters, and we feel really good with our guys being in Dr. ElAttrache's hands. He's as good as it gets, and I think the issues that have come from second time Tommy John is more technique related and stuff that Dr. ElAttrache is all over. And again, feel very fortunate that we have our guys in his hands.
Walker sort of talked about how he sort of views Tommy John, the ligament's going to last like 7 or 8 years. And this was around that timeline. How much was that something that sort of like a looming concern for you guys going into this year and just looking ahead, projecting his career out?
Yeah, there's kind of loose timelines around that of, kind of 7 to 10 years. It's always in the back of your head, but obviously it's also not 100% certainty either. And, the way he has held up and performed for us, we think there's a chance to get around it, but, we've all been around this game a long time, and pitcher injuries are very much a part of it. And now the return to play part, who the surgeon is, how diligent the patient is in the recovery and rehab process, and we feel as good about those two things as we possibly can. We know that Walker is going to do everything in his power to get back and be really smart about it. We watched him attack the process in 2015, so we feel good about it for whenever he's able, that he'll step right back in and contribute. And in the meantime, obviously, we've got a lot of talented guys to help pick up the slack.
You had the chance to talk to Walker, whether it's going into surgery, I imagine maybe not today, out of surgery, but how is he taking this? Because it did seem, when we spoke to him last, I feel like if this was going to be something that has to be done, he was optimistic and kind of, like you mentioned, just going with it.
Yeah. Talked to him a lot in the last couple of weeks, and, again, over the weekend. Texted him this morning, but I think his maturity and kind of how he was internalizing all of this was extremely impressive. It's easy to be frustrated. It's easy to be mad, but that wasn't his frame of mind at all. It was much more kind of pragmatic and matter of fact, and whatever came out of it, he was going to attack it and do everything he could to get back as soon as possible.
Knowing what we do now, how much do you feel like the elbow might have impacted some of the performance you had this year?
It's a good question. I don't know, because we don't have a picture of it from before, and exactly how acute versus kind of where it's hard to say. My lazy take is that it did, but I don't know that for sure.
Does doing the flexor extend the timeline for him coming back at all?
No, it's part of it when they do the graft is, just kind of affixing it to it. I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night, but I'm definitely probably butchering that.
Was that something they had seen when they went in for the bone spur at all, or?
No, but they do that arthroscopically, so you don't see that.
Do you know if the bone spur had any impact on the ligament or the flexor?
At least at the time that the flexor injury happened, it was that they were unrelated in terms of direct correlation, but not being able to fully extend could have put more stress on the pronator, but not necessarily direct cause.
You have a few free agents in that starting pitcher mix. How does this affect your priorities this winter?
It's a good question. I have yet to really wrap my arms around this offseason. We spent a little time in June and early July starting to lay that out. But obviously things change, and they have changed since that time period. So much of our focus right now is on finishing strong and really getting a sense for how we're going to configure things, hopefully going into October. And so for us, that's really where our focus is, but there's no question it's something we're going to have to address when we get to the offseason.
And late next year is an actual possibility?
I don't know the answer, and so I just know that today went really well, and so I think we'll learn a lot more as we go in terms of how he's progressing, and we'll let that kind of fall out of that progression more than we'll have any kind of specific date.
Are second Tommy John's typically longer recoveries, rehabs?
Not from what I understand. I think it has a lot to do with the actual surgery, what went into it, how the tissue was around it. I think there are a lot of factors that go into it. And then also how the progression is going. And so those are some of those things we're not going to know for a while. But the most important bit of information from today is that it went as well as it possibly could have.
Was there any consideration when he first got hurt to go in and do like the exploratory thing like this, or was it just when he wasn't feeling better and the MRI still weren't conclusive that kind of became the decision?
Yeah, that never came up at the time. I think it was more that the rest had a high degree of likelihood of being successful, not 100%, but enough where let's run it out a little bit and see. And then as it was grabbing on him when he started his throwing progression, that's when he took a step back and decided to go this route.
Thanks, guys.